We are born without wanting it. We die without understanding it. In this sentence, brutal and irreducible, Carlo Michelstaedter delivers his final diagnosis of existence. It is not a metaphor. It is not an exaggeration. It is not a cry of despair. It is a cold statement of fact. Human life begins without consent and ends without comprehension. Everything in between is an attempt to forget this violence. No one asks to exist. Existence is imposed. Consciousness awakens already late, already surrounded, already embedded inside structures that precede it. Language is already there. Values are already assigned. Expectations are already waiting. From the very beginning, life does not present itself as an open question, but as a command. You are here. Now adapt. Michelstaedter understood something most people spend their entire lives avoiding, that what we call life is not something we actively possess, but something we endure. The individual does not step freely into the world. He is thrown into it, immediately required to justify his presence through participation. Education, work, productivity, morality, these are not neutral paths. They are mechanisms designed to absorb the individual into a system that must perpetuate itself. From childhood, the human being is trained to accept delay. First you prepare, then you improve, then you wait. Life is always postponed. The present is never enough. The present is always incomplete, insufficient, something to be endured so that a future reward may arrive. But the reward never arrives. It simply transforms into another delay. Michelstaedter recognized this postponement as the central lie of existence. Man believes he is moving toward life, but in truth, he is only moving away from death long enough to remain functional. Survival is mistaken for living. Continuation is mistaken for meaning. Born in 1887 into a wealthy, orderly Jewish family, Michelstaedter grew up inside everything society defines as success: stability, respectability, education, security. His father represented the ideal: social individual, disciplined, productive, integrated, the kind of man institutions reward and preserve. But precisely within this apparent perfection, Michelstaedter perceived suffocation. What troubled him was not suffering. It was comfort. Comfort that demanded silence. Comfort that required obedience. Comfort that masked its own emptiness behind routine and obligation. He saw that stability was not proof of truth. It was proof of adaptation. As a young man, Michelstaedter moved through disciplines restlessly: mathematics, art, philosophy, literature. He read obsessively, but never peacefully. Plato offered structure, but no life. Aristotle offered order, but no necessity. Schopenhauer revealed suffering, but still explained it. Nietzsche shattered illusions, but replaced them with others. Every system promised insight. None delivered existence. What distinguished Michelstaedter was not intelligence. It was intolerance. He could not tolerate false resolution. He could not tolerate borrowed meaning. He could not tolerate the quiet agreement to live half awake. Every answer he encountered felt like postponement disguised as wisdom. The suicide of his brother did not break him emotionally. It sharpened him intellectually. It confirmed what he already suspected, that life, as structured, cannot bear full consciousness. That lucidity is incompatible with accommodation. That the world functions by ensuring people remain just conscious enough to function, but never conscious enough to refuse. From this point forward, Michelstaedter's thought became merciless. He did not seek happiness. He did not seek balance. He sought truth, regardless of its cost. And the truth he uncovered was devastating. Existence is not lived. It is managed. Man does not live. He survives. And survival is not neutral. It demands sacrifice. Michelstaedter's central work, Persuasion and Rhetoric, is often misunderstood as a philosophical text, among others. It is not. It is an indictment. It is a dismantling of the very language through which society sustains itself. Rhetoric, in Michelstaedter's sense, is not mere persuasion or manipulation. It is the entire symbolic system that convinces individuals that they are alive while ensuring they never fully are. It is the language of promises, the grammar of postponement. The structure of hope. Rhetoric teaches the individual to orient his life toward what is not yet. Education promises future competence. Work promises future stability. Morality promises future redemption. Politics promises future order. Religion promises future meaning. Everything meaningful is always elsewhere. The present, stripped of guarantees, is unbearable. So rhetoric fills it with tasks. Michelstaedter saw that rhetoric functions by transforming lack into virtue. Insecurity becomes ambition. Fear becomes discipline. Dependency becomes belonging. The individual is taught not to resolve his lack, but to manage it productively. Desire becomes fuel. Anxiety becomes motivation. Persuasion stands in absolute opposition to this. It is not a belief. It is not an ideology. It is not even a conscious decision. Persuasion is the state of the individual who no longer lives in anticipation, who does not defer existence to a future justification, who does not require recognition, success, or security to legitimize being alive. But persuasion is nearly impossible, because it requires renunciation. Total renunciation. To be persuaded means to exist without guarantees. To live without rhetoric means to abandon every external support, career, identity, hope, even purpose. The persuaded individual does not become. He simply is. And that state is intolerable to a world that requires motion, productivity, and direction. Rhetoric cannot allow this condition to spread. A persuaded individual is ungovernable. He cannot be motivated through fear or reward. He cannot be promised a future because he does not live for tomorrow. He cannot be threatened with loss because he has already renounced possession. This is why persuasion is treated as madness, as failure, as irresponsibility. Society must pathologize it to survive. Michelstaedter did not exclude science or philosophy from this critique. When science reduces existence to measurable functions, it becomes rhetoric. When philosophy retreats into abstraction, it becomes rhetoric. Knowledge that does not transform being is merely another postponement mechanism. The tragedy is not ignorance. The tragedy is compliance. Most people do not live under illusion because they are deceived. They live under illusion because illusion is safer than truth. Because rhetoric offers shelter from the unbearable weight of being fully present, man prefers the lie that sustains him to the truth that would dismantle him. On October 17, 1910, Carlo Michelstaedter submitted his thesis. Hours later, he ended his life. The act has haunted his philosophy ever since, not because it completes it, but because it exposes its cost. Michelstaedter never argued that one must die. He argued that one must live without illusion. The tragedy is that such a life may not be sustainable within the world as it exists. His death was not a solution. It was a collision between absolute lucidity and an environment that cannot accommodate it. Michelstaedter demanded too much from existence. Or perhaps he demanded exactly what existence refuses to give. History would later confirm his pessimism. The structures that promised security to his family collapsed violently. Order, progress, civilization, all revealed themselves as temporary narratives masking contingency and cruelty. There were no guarantees. There never were. Michelstaedter offers no salvation, no path forward, no method for improvement. Persuasion is not scalable. It cannot become a movement. It cannot become a system. The moment it does, It becomes rhetoric again. To live without illusion is not heroic. It is isolating. It strips away meaning without replacing it. It leaves the individual exposed to the raw fact of existence, that there is no justification for being here. This is why most people will never choose it. Not because they are incapable, but because they are unwilling. Illusion is not imposed by force. It is accepted voluntarily, again and again, because it makes survival tolerable. The final question remains unresolved. Is persuasion possible within life, or only against it? Perhaps the most disturbing conclusion is this. The problem is not that authentic life is impossible. The problem is that most people would reject it if it were offered. They do not want truth. They want continuity. And continuity, dressed as life, is enough.